Morning, first grade. We're going to begin our in-depth study of the salmon of the Pacific Northwest. In your packet of materials, you have a copy of this book. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to help you read the book and learn some of the materials found in the book. Your job at home is to follow along and read the words with me if you're able. And then you're going to be coloring in the pages as you go. Now, in your schedule of activities, I'm assigning what pages you're to do on what days. Now, I know your parents are really busy, so I need you to be really good listeners and be able to listen and do the work on your own. You can always ask them for help, but they've got a lot to do too. So let's get started. The title of our book is Salmon of the Pacific Northwest. The Pacific Northwest is where we live. There are salmon in other parts of the world, but these are the ones that are native to where we live. So we're going to start with the first page inside the book, which is page number 2. Salmon are fish that live part of their lives in freshwater and part of their lives in saltwater. They hatch in freshwater, live there for a while, and then migrate to saltwater where they grow into adults. This book focuses on the 5 major species found in the Pacific Northwest: pink, sockeye, coho, chum, and chinook. Pink. This is a picture of a pink salmon. It's also known as a humpback. The pink salmon live 2 years and weigh up to 5 pounds. If you go over to this chart, you'll see this is the pink here, so you'll know how to color it. There's the pink. Sockeye. Sockeye, also known as red salmon, live 4 to 5 years and weigh up to 7 pounds. Sockeye. Look at that. So red. Coho, also known as silver. Salmon live 3 to 5 years and weigh up to 15 pounds. Coho. Here's the coho over here. This is the one we're raising in our tank at school. Coho. Chum, also known as dog salmon, live 3 to 5 years and weigh up to 10 pounds. Chum. Here's the chum over here. Chinook, also known as the king salmon, live 5 to 7 years and weigh 40 to 60 pounds and sometimes more. I've heard that they can get up to 100 pounds. They're huge. Now here is the chinook here. You can't tell by the picture, but they're much bigger than the other fish. So we're going to move on to page number 3. All living things go through a cycle or circle of life. Animals and plants are born in some way, grow to maturity, create new life, and die. This drawing shows how salmon live their life cycle. Salmon start life in a stream or river as eggs and hatch into alevin. So from egg to alevin. After they grow into fry, pink, sockeye, and chum salmon leave their freshwater stream or river for saltwater, the Salish Sea or the Pacific Ocean, and continue to grow there. So the pink, this one over here, the sockeye, and the chum leave their freshwater and head to the sea when they're fry. Coho and chinook fry stay in freshwater where they grow into fingerlings and smolts before heading to saltwater to grow into adults. So the coho and the chinook stay a little longer in the river or the stream as fry, grow into fingerlings, and then move into their smolt stage. When the time comes to make the next generation, all species of the Pacific salmon return to freshwater to spawn and die, leaving eggs to start the cycle of life again. We enter this study of the salmon life cycle when they are adults living in saltwater and about to return to the freshwater to create life. So they've gone from egg to alevin to fry to fingerling to smolt to adult. We're going to move on. Well, actually, I want to show you a colored picture of the cycle, just so you have some ideas of how you might color your picture in when you have time to do that. We're going to move on to page number 4. In your book, 4 and 5 are very connected, so you can see part of the pictures here and part of it's on the next page. Salmon travel as far into saltwater as they need to in order to find enough food. If they find enough in the protected waters of the Salish Sea, which includes the Puget Sound, they will stay there. If not, they will swim hundreds of miles into the northern Pacific Ocean. Have you ever visited a friend's house and noticed that it smells different from your own house? It doesn't smell bad, just not the same as what you're used to home smelling like. People who study salmon don't know everything about how they find their way home, but they do know that salmon can smell the difference between water from home and water from someplace else. Young salmon learn the smell of their home water so that when they come in from the saltwater, they will know home by its smell. First, they eat to survive, and then they eat to store fat. Fat is the fuel that they will need to make the trip home. So it's kind of like the gas in your tank. That's your fuel. Well, for salmon, their fuel is fat. Let's move on to page number 5. Adult salmon stay in saltwater until their bodies tell them it's time to return to the freshwater. Coho, for example, returned to the freshwater after 2 years in saltwater. All species of salmon change both outside and inside as they return to fresh water. Some change more than others. Males develop a hooked nose and a red color on their sides. Sockeye males are especially red, which is why they are sometimes called red salmon. Males also develop sharp teeth. Females change less on the outside, but inside they are filling with thousands of eggs. As they near fresh water, salmon stop eating and their organs used for digestion begin to shut down. They have just enough energy to swim into their stream or river, and if they're lucky, to stay away from seals and other predators that hunt them until their last minutes in salt water. Page number 6. Like birds, salmon build nests, not with sticks and feathers, but with gravel. The female salmon digs the nest, called a redd, notice it's spelled R-E-D-D, by swishing her tail and flapping it up and down to loosen gravel in the stream or river. For this job, she is all muscle. Some Native Americans use the regular beat of a drum to make the sound of the female salmon tail slapping the water. The idea was that other salmon would hear the sound and come in to spawn too. The female looks for a place to lay her eggs that has lots of gravel and not much sand. Gravel will cover her eggs loosely. Sand would cover them tightly and kill them. They wouldn't be able to breathe. She also looks for a place where fresh, cold water entering the stream or river will bubble through her eggs, keeping them cold and bringing them lots of oxygen to breathe. If the perfect spot already has a redd, too bad. The female will dig her redd there anyway, tossing out the first set of eggs to die in the flowing water. Wow. Page number 7. While the female salmon is digging the redd, her female her male partner may need to chase off another male in the area. Females may also use their teeth to fight over a single male. Fighting takes a lot of energy, though, and a third fish may give up so that it is still strong enough to find and mate with another partner. When the red is finished, the male and female swirl over it in a dance that can go on for an hour or more until the female is ready to release her eggs. Salmon eggs are an orange-pink color and about the size of a green pea. Salmon need to produce a lot of eggs to keep the species going because most will die before becoming adults. A female coho, for example, may lay 2,000 to 3,000 eggs. At the same time as the female releases eggs, the male releases sperm. The trick is to fertilize as many eggs as possible before the current washes away the tiny sperm. Salmon may spawn more than once with the same or a different partner. After laying her eggs, the female does the swishing motion again to cover her eggs with gravel. The small stones will protect her eggs from the hungry trout or birds and from the fast-flowing water after a heavy rain. Within hours of spawning, all salmon die. They will not be around to help their babies survive. Page 8. A few days after eggs are laid and fertilized, they develop a large black dot. This dot and a second dot tucked inside will become the baby salmon's eyes. Do you remember seeing those inside the eggs in our tank? A few weeks later, eggs begin to hatch. As they do, the thin skin that covered the egg floats away. At this stage, they are called alevin, and they stay hidden in the gravel where they hatched. In the wild, only 1 out of 100 coho eggs survives to become a fry. Thank goodness the spawners left so many. Alevin bodies are nearly see-through with a spine and eyes, the only features that stand out, except for their big bellies, that is. The yolk sac is full of rich food to keep them alive until they are ready to eat on their own. As this food gets used, the sac shrinks and disappears. Now they are fry. Fry swim out of the gravel and to start feeding along the banks of their stream or river. Some may swim downstream into a lake to feed. They eat the larvae of insects and worms that live in the water. They also learn to eat what floats by, especially insects that fall into the water. Chum, pink, and sockeye salmon migrate into saltwater as fry. Chinook and coho stay in freshwater another 4 to 18 months, growing into fingerlings and then into smolts. A Chinook smolt is about 6 inches long when it leaves for saltwater. A coho smolt is about 4 to 5 inches long. So here they are: egg, alevin, fry, fingerling, smolt. Notice how the smolt's markings have changed quite a bit.